Has left the state capture building until 2 days sometime in May, but speaking today on the second day of his testimony, he says the process of going through the commission and the work of the State Capture Commission allows the ANC to start afresh. Over the past 2 days, of course, he's painted a picture of a party that's failed miserably to stop the rot, acknowledging that they waited too long to act on state capture concerns. And if they don't draw a line in the sand now, once and for all, the party will eventually implode. I'm joined by Professor Iva Sarakinsky, political philosopher at the Wits School of Governance. Prof, thank you so much for your time. I want to start with what he said about catharsis, that it is an important process to get this all out in the open, to ventilate it. And that made me think of the Truth Commission in many ways, that there is no healing, there is no fixing until it's all ventilated. For that reason alone, do you think what he's been saying for the last 2 days is critically important to the Commission and South Africa's recovery from corruption?
It's critically important to the Commission in terms of getting as much reliable information as possible. On the question of catharsis, it's much more complex, because catharsis isn't just ventilating a concern or a set of secrets that you make public and suddenly you're healed. Ventilating is only one part of a long process in terms of a cathartic healing. So part of this will have to be reflection, part of this will have to be correction, and unavoidable in any process of catharsis is accountability. And I'm afraid there isn't enough talk about accountability in terms of this healing process. And until the public sees those who were responsible for these acts being held accountable in one form or another, we'll only have a partial healing, a partial catharsis, and I'm afraid that was one of the weaknesses with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It was only a partial catharsis.
It's interesting, the President has been acknowledging very openly that there was a complete systems failure, a massive systems failure, as he put it, but that the ANC is now fixing it. They've drawn yet another line in the sand, he says, and certainly the words have been ever more powerful about this has to stop. And also the President saying if it doesn't stop, the party's simply going to implode eventually. But I think a lot of people are listening to what the President has said today and contrasting that with what they know about the deadline for the step-aside rule today, tomorrow. Anyway, it's been 30 days that those accused of corruption in the party have had to step aside. To date, Ace Magashule has not stepped aside. And when Jeff Radebe was questioned by Siphamandla Gqoke just a few moments ago about it, he said, oh, well, we're having a meeting on the 8th of May. The NEC will discuss it there. So the 30-day rule, it looks already, is looking quite flabby, if you will. What do you make of the words to the Commission and the actions of the party at the moment in dealing with current corruption concerns?
I find the phrase massive system failure a camouflage for a whole range of other issues that maybe are too sensitive for the President to talk about. Systems don't simply fail. Systems might not work if the people who have to be governed by those systems don't comply and don't stick to the rules and procedures of the system. That's when a system fails. So in terms of supply chain management and other accountability processes in terms of the Constitution, they failed because people didn't do their jobs. People didn't do what they were supposed to do. And I have a suspicion that we're going to see the same thing here with the stand-aside rule. The 2017 resolution is clear. We saw the NEC change that. We've now seen parties try to renegotiate what the rule means. And we wait to see whether there'll be compliance based on all the noise that's been created around it. And what this shows is that if people choose not to comply, you have to intervene and you've got to ensure consequences. And it's this failure to deliver consequences which I think is the main concern many observers have, because it means that there's no accountability. You obfuscate and nothing happens. In other words, business as usual, maybe less intense, but business as usual. The other thing I'm watching closely is the Minerals and Energy Portfolio Committee in Parliament refusing to have an investigation into the Powerships contracts and the chairperson closing that conversation. And that's exactly the opposite of the sentiment that's been expressed in the Commission. And this happened yesterday.
And that's really interesting, that last development. We've been focusing quite a lot on these Powerships here on eNCA. And when I spoke to the portfolio chairperson, he said they're very much still seized with the matter. So that's quite interesting, that update. We'll certainly pick up on that one. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Professor Iva Sarakinsky, political philosopher at the Wits School of Governance.